Guacamole Verde. This should be one of your go-to dishes. Welcome back to my kitchen. I'm really excited to be sharing with you this version of guacamole, a kind of variation on the classic one that we've been serving at our restaurant for over 37 years. This is a guacamole verde, and it comes from all those taquerias in Mexico City where their guacamole is more like a sauce and it's infused with the bright flavor of tomatillos. So what we're going to do first here is to make a tomatillo salsa, a roasted tomatillo salsa to flavor the mashed avocado. So the first thing that I've done, well, I've got the big tomatillo here. You take off that papery husk. I think everybody knows that. I like to rinse them after I do that because there will be some of that husk that will still be stuck on them. And then once you get those finished, you put them onto this rimmed baking sheet. I'm using this tiny little one because we just have 3 tomatillos here, along with the serrano chili, and then put them under the broiler. I like to go about 6 or 7 minutes until they're blotchy black like this. Turn them over and roast them on the other side. I know when they come out, they look very much like something you think you should be throwing into the trash, but just trust me here. The roasting of tomatillos is where you get all of that sweetness coming to match their natural tartness. To me, it's by far the very best way to deal with cooking tomatillos. Okay, so I'm going to put those into a blender jar here, everything, but you'll want to grab a spatula so that you can scrape up all the delicious juices that are there. So everything goes in, and then just use your spatula to scrape every bit of the syrupy juices into your blender jar. Okay, now I'm going to blend it. It's not a whole lot there. If you have one of those little tiny food processors, you might want to use it here. But then, you can make this work in pretty much any blender. I'm going to let this go until I get what I would call a coarse puree. A little bit of texture still left, but moving toward a puree. Okay, now let's talk about avocados. You need to have mashable, ripe, or soft avocados. Always test them at the bulbous end there because that's the last place to soften up. If there are any of the little buttons up here where the stem attached to the avocado, you're going to want to get those out of there because they'll just mash right into your avocado. Go around the avocado's pit. I always like to start at the top, that what we would call the stem end, and then go around that. The next thing that we have to do, obviously, is to get the pits out of here. So twist the sides apart, and then you can use a spoon to do this, or you can do what we do in the restaurants, and that's just to to lodge your knife into the pit and twist, and then with a large spoon, scoop all of the flesh of the avocados into the bowl. Now, these are Hass avocados. It's a hybrid between Mexican avocado, which is a small avocado with a very thin skin, but delicious, delicious flavor. Hass is a hybrid between that Mexican variety and the Guatemalan variety, which has a thick skin, and it has a really good size to it. So you get the best of both worlds. You're going to get size and flavor here, and a really nice little perk is that skin is so tough that you can really scrape all the flesh out from it right away. Now, you can use a number of different things to mash the avocados. I like the old-fashioned potato masher, because in just a few presses through the avocado flesh, and you've got chunky guacamole there. Okay, so that's all I need to do for that. And then I'm going to scrape all of this mixture in with the tomatillo, with the mashed avocado stuff. Okay, so you can, when you make this, you'll figure out exactly how much of this you're going to want in there. Some people may want a little less than this full amount, so you might want to start with about 2/3 of the tomatillo mixture. With what I can see there, it looks like we're gonna need all of that. The next thing that I'm gonna do is to put some salt in here and stir everything together. Okay, it's looking really good. Last two ingredients are onion that I'm gonna chop fairly fine. Again, we're working with white onion, not yellow onion here. White is gonna give you the right texture and flavor. It's that bright flavor. And once you get it chopped, then I'm gonna suggest that you do this thing that people do all the time in Mexico, which is to scoop it into a strainer and rinse it off. What we get with this is not only better crisp texture out of it, but we get rid of all of that really strong kind of oniony flavor. Now, the amount of onion that you put in here is entirely up to you. I think this is too much for me, so I'm going to put about half of this in there, maybe just a tiny bit more than a half. And then the last ingredient that we have is cilantro. So we'll grab some cilantro sprigs here. I'm just saying a small handful of these. I use the stems and all, simply because the stems are very tender in cilantro, very different than if you were doing this with parsley, which has tough skins. But the cilantro leaves and the cilantro stems are very tender and flavorful. So again, this is up to your discretion how much you're going to use of the cilantro. I happen to be a cilantro freak, so I put a fair amount of it in there. And then we will stir all of this together here. And then I'm going to give it a taste, and we're going to see where we are with the salt. After you get everything in here, you will need to give it that final taste. Now, what are we looking for in terms of that taste? We are looking for spice of the serrano chili, the tanginess of the tomatillo, and the creamy richness of the avocado. Well, I'm getting everything, but everything seems really subdued in this. So I know it's going to need more salt than what I initially put in it here. So I will grab salt and put a little more. Now, when I'm working with salt in my home kitchen, I'm working with diamond crystal salt, which has a very large flake. So it requires more volume of salt than if you were working with fine ground table salt. Let me just see where we are now with flavor here. Now it's all coming together really beautifully. Okay, so our final presentation here. I know we all talk about chips, and I love chips, and we've got chips right here, but this guacamole in particular, I think is super delicious. If you could slice up some cucumber, some jicama, and put that out with this beautiful, beautiful guacamole verde. I hope you like this one. To me, it just keeps attracting me back all the time. Such beautiful balance of flavors with that rich creaminess of the avocado. There is one more thing that I want to highly recommend here, and that's the use of Mexican queso añejo, or you could use Parmesan or Romano cheese for this, a kind of pungent garnishing cheese. It's really, really delicious, sprinkled over this particular kind of guacamole. Okay. Now it's perfect.